Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking another look at blueprint researching. Now I have covered this topic before in a previous video, but that was a very basic overview of blueprint researching. And I'll link that video down in the description if anybody wants to go back to have a look at it. So one of the biggest questions I kind of get asked in regards to blueprint researching is, well, there's nothing profitable, or I can't find anything, or there just isn't any ISK to be made from researching. Now this is so factually incorrect, it literally makes my head hurt, and I'm going to go through a few with you today, and again how I pick the stations that I do the research in. Now it's not particularly complicated. I do my research in two stations. One is the Perimeter Tranquil Research Labs, and the other is the Tama Detroit Depot, I think it's called, which is a 0.4 system, 5 jumps from jitter. Now, just to reiterate, the general differences between the two stations are the Perimeter one is slightly faster but will cost more due to the index of the system, and the Tama one researches pretty quick but generally has a lower costs due to being in low-sec and faction warfare. However, it is located in low-sec, so you will have to go into low-sec in order to use it. That's kind of like the trade-off. Now, I kind of use these stations because they are the larger stations, and they are well run and financed all in all. So I could use smaller stations, however, they are more susceptible to being war-decked and blown up, and due to I don't want to be risking the stuff that I'm putting in there as much. So I feel that using these two stations, the items I have in there are relatively secure. So in order to be making this video, I obviously was looking through some of the blueprints I have straight off. And again, it's at the top here, I was looking at drones. And anybody who says there's nothing to research really just hasn't looked. And I'll give you 3 examples straight off. So straight off the bat, we've got the Infiltrator medium-sized drone. Now if we check contracts, you'll see there are currently none for sale here, which obviously means there's an opportunity. The BPO costs 1.7 million ISK and can be bought on the market for 1.9 million. It will take you roughly 2 days to do the ME to 10 and the same amount of time to do the PE to 10. It will cost you 400,000 ISK, taking our grand total to 2.1 million ISK. Now, I generally say that you could probably sell that BPO from there once it's researched for between 10 and 20 million ISK. However, you could try and be greedy, as there's none currently for sale. You could hike it up even more and try and get 30 to 40 million ISK. If someone's desperate, they may just buy it. And so the same with the Valkyrie. Looking in contracts, again there's only one for sale in Amar, and let's face it, Amar's become a lot more dangerous to get to, and that's selling for 20 million ISK. We've established that roughly it's going to cost us 2.2 million ISK to get this researched. So again, if you were to list that for the same price here, you're making 18 million ISK in 4 days. And last but not least, we have the Warden. Now, the Warden has a few of these for sale. They're going for 40 million ISK. The Warden will cost you slightly more, so we're coming in at 14 million ISK to buy one of these BPOs. And again, it's a 3-day to get this, so it's slightly longer by an extra day, so it'll take you 6 days, and you'll be making 25 million ISK, assuming you currently sell it at the price that it's going for. So assuming, again, you make roughly 20 million ISK from these BPOs, or 25 in the case of the Warden, it's coming out at roughly 190,000 ISK an hour. Again, that's not phenomenal, but it is pretty good. And for the, so say, the mediums and the lights, it's very low risk. You're not having to invest a great deal of ISK. They're 2 million ISK investment, and obviously then potentially there you can make 20 million from it. So 10 million ISK, you could be making a half decent amount of ISK there every several days. Now the single biggest argument to this seems to be, well, how do you know they're going to sell? And how do you know they're going to sell for that? And these will sell. They always sell. Now, you may not necessarily get the exact amount that you're looking for, so the wardens may not sell at the current price they are on for the contracts. But if you want a warden, that's pretty much what you've got to pay at the moment. You've got to pay 39 million, or you've got to do it yourself. They are your two options. Now, again, with the, the Infiltrator, there are currently none on contracts at all at the moment for the BPO. So again, you get to set your price, and assuming you set it at a semi-reasonable price, somebody will pay for it if they want it. Now, I can't guarantee these 100% will sell, but again, I've been researching BPOs for a pretty decent amount of time now, and they always sell. The only difference is they may not sell at the price you want. Now, for instance, a good analogy to that, or a good example of that, is in Jitter I have the drone bays or the cargo bays, I can't remember which one, and currently I'm sitting on 7 or 8 of them, and it's not that they're not selling, I'm just not willing to sell them at the price they're currently going for in Jitter on contracts. But that's not because I can't sell them, that's because I won't. And that comes back to the part that you have 11 slots here. Now, potentially, if you buy 11 BPOs for the medium drones, it's going to cost you, what, 22 million ISK. The worst case scenario is you never sell a single one and it's cost you 22 million ISK. Whoopie-doo. How awful. However, if these sell for 20 million ISK a piece, you've made 200 million minus your initial investment cost of 22 million. Now that amount of ISK to start off the game could be quite game changing and will give you a huge boost. And again, you're pretty much risking nothing. And the very worst case scenario, the worst case scenario is you find that these won't sell for whatever reason at 20 million ISK. You can always drop them to 10, you can drop them to 5, you can even drop them to 2. And you'll be pretty much breaking even minus the time that it took you to research them. And if you weren't researching them, you've really lost nothing. And there are literally hundreds of BPOs to choose from all the way through. So there is more than enough stuff to be looking at. Generally, I would say stay away from ships if you are relatively new. Now, it's not that they're necessarily terrible, but it's usually a little bit more, competition in regards to ships. And I generally put that down to them being a little bit more glamorous to sell. That, you know, it's a bit more fun to say that, you know, you research and sell ship BPOs than component BPOs of bits and bobs that pretty much most people have never really heard of, don't really use, etc, etc. So it's the only reason I can think of for why ship BPOs never seem to be all that great. Although that's not to say that there's not profit there. So let's take this catalyst for instance. Now, catalysts are used quite a lot. I think we've used this in a previous example. That's currently not researched at all. And that one isn't even at full. So by the looks of it, the first perfect one, according, is here. And that's selling for 40 million ISK. So, 40 million. I'm assuming this will take a little longer to research. 31 days plus 31 days, so yeah, 61 days. I wouldn't be doing that, it's just not worth it. You may as well concentrate on something a bit smaller. Let's have a look at the damage control. The damage control 0 ME might not be worth it. 9 million ISK. 9 million, it's 50k to buy, and it will take you 6 days. So again, not terrible, not great. Drone damage, and literally I'm just pulling these straight out of the hat now. I've not looked into this at all. got 10 million there. That one is cheap. So we'll assume that one's going to sell. We can sell it possibly for about 14 mil. It's cost us 500k to buy it, and it's going to take 3 days, 6 days. So again, 10 million ISK there, pretty much relatively easy. Now the reason I generally use the station imp perimeter is that the fact that it does do very, very quickly, and for smaller BPOs like the damage control, the general installation cost is negligible. It's not really going to make that much of a difference. However, when you start looking at the capital size items, you'll see why Tama is a bit more tempting. So here we go, we've got a capital BPO here, and in order to get it to level 10, it's going to cost me 10 million ISK currently in Tama. Now that is with faction warfare and structural bonus, etc. So as it currently stands, 10 million ISK, and it's going to take me 50 days. Now if we look at the perimeter station, we are looking at 48 million ISK, and we are looking at slightly longer at 63 days. So although there is less risk because you're not having to go into low sec, the installation cost is substantially higher, and so say the job duration is slightly longer. And so that's why generally I use Tama in order to do capital BPO research. Now in regards to the, say, the smaller BPOs, I don't bother to take them there because the research time isn't particularly long and the installation cost is so small. A couple of extra 1,000 ISK saving isn't really going to make or break when doing the smaller BPOs, where on the bigger BPOs, obviously 38 million is a decent amount of ISK that I can be saving there. And so that is a decent way of starting off and building up some capital and some BPOs. Now obviously, as we looked, these items aren't going to be flying off the shelf, so I researched them sparingly. So I wouldn't do 11 infiltrator BPOs straight off the bat. Again, diversification is the goal there, so maybe one of each, check the markets, etc., and go slowly, and that will help you build up a stockpile of ISK, and it will also get you an idea of what sells quickly and what sells more slowly, and therefore you want to be concentrating on the items which are selling quickly and maybe less so on the items that are selling slowly. So for instance, the capital BPOs, I am not currently researching any of the drone bays or the cargo bays, whichever it is, because at the moment they're just not selling, so I'm not going to be researching any more for the time being. Or I should rephrase that, it's not that they're not selling, I'm just not willing to sell at the current price. Now I have, so say, 8 or so in stock, and I can afford to wait, and that's exactly what I'll do until it gets to the point of where I'm happy to sell them. Or it may never get to that point and I may end up having to sell them for less than what I actually want, but I at least have that option. The value has already been added to them BPOs, and it's now up to me to decide how much my time was worth putting into them BPOs, and how much ISK investment that I want back for my time. So I think we'll leave the video there. I hope that's been useful and given you a few ideas on how and what is possible. So get out there, start researching. And with that, fly safe. Thank you for watching.